My family says I am mistreating my younger sibling. So my brother, 18-year-old male, is now a senior in high school about to graduate. He has never been pushed in school because honestly my mom is a pushover and lets him do whatever he wants and my dad is just not present. He told me he wants to be a psychologist and I told him that he will need to get into college first and get a degree in order to do that. He has never really considered doing this before since, again, my mom offers zero discipline and guidance to push him towards success. The main barrier between him and college is his low SAT score. So I have been sitting down with him a few hours a week until his retest trying to help him work through the problems. I have an education-oriented degree. I also have started paying for a math tutor for him to see once a week for only an hour since I barely remember all the details of SAT math. Now, here comes the drama. My mom and older sister, 33-year-old female, say that I am pushing him way too hard, and I need to take it easy on him because he was born premature and has learning issues. It's true he was born premature, but he does not have any learning barriers that I know of. But they like to treat him like he's disabled for some reason. They say I am emotionally abusing him by setting expectations that are too high for someone like him. We have gotten in multiple fights about this and I called my mom out saying that she doesn't know how to prepare him for the real world. I had a hell of a time navigating it myself and setting him up for failure by coddling him all his life. She basically turned on the waterworks and started to lament about everyone thinking she's a bad mom, while my older sister pats her back and glares at me. From my perspective, I'm not forcing my brother to do anything he does not want to do. I've asked him multiple times about if he really wants to go to college or if he even wants to study for the SAT. There are many amazing careers that you can have outside of college, which I explained to him. Trade school, military, etc., etc. He keeps telling me that he wants this ad help and he wants to apply to college. I told my mom this, and she insists that he is only saying that because you're pressuring him to believe that. It is so frustrating, truly. But the main concern is that when my mom asks my brother what it is he wants, he gets really quiet and doesn't speak because he doesn't like being in the middle of our arguments. This further solidifies what she already thinks and causes my brother to doubt himself as he questions if he is really capable of going to college. So Reddit, what can I do? Where is this aggression from my family coming from? I am only trying to help my brother. I thought they should be happy about it. TLDR. My family says I am emotionally abusing my brother by pushing him to apply for college and take his ETIET. How do I help my brother without pissing off my mom? The fact that people still believe the earth is flat in the 21st century is mind-boggling to me. It's just ignorance and lack of critical thinking skills. You can't argue with science and evidence. Should I still continue making things work with my depressed partner? I just really need advice right now and I'm hoping to receive some feedback to help me think through to our situation. For a brief background, my girlfriend has been depressed for a while now because she cut down her medications 5 months ago, but is now consistent with her medications and slowly I've been noticing improvements on her part. So yesterday my girlfriend called me and while we were talking in the phone, she mentioned that her along with her friends were frustrated to a certain classmate of ours. For the sake of privacy and for this post, I'll just call him Jake. So for another brief background, Jake always had been showing signs of autism, though we're not really quite sure if he was clinically diagnosed. But it was obvious that his demeanor is really different from our usual classmates. And back then, he was used to be bullied by our classmates. Currently, my girlfriend along with her friends are groupmates with Jake. And the reason why they feel frustrated towards him is because majority of the time, they have to basically spoon-feed Jake for him to contribute in the group. But he barely gives any quality effort. So my girlfriend showed me their group chat for a bit, and I saw her along with her friends encouraging their other friend to trigger Jake, to the point that it became disrespectful. And they reason out onto saying that it was because Jake was also acting a bit rude as of lately, though I don't agree with them because I can't necessarily say for sure since it was through chat, and it's quite hard to know what really is someone's intention through mere text messages. And also knowing that Jake is a bad texter, it's difficult to assume such way. I called out onto my girlfriend's behavior, saying that triggering him wouldn't make the situation any better. I also added that although it was valid to feel frustrated, it was still not right to be rude at someone back. Then out of the sudden, she started raising her voice at me saying, "What do you want to do then?" And every time I explained myself in a composed manner, she would pester me with questions to the point that I had little room to fully explain. As of now, I still feel hurt, because I have trouble towards to knowing when is thin line between knowing what is tolerable and what's not. I always try to excuse that maybe due to her depression, it might have clouded her judgment. But still, that shouldn't be an excuse for one's poor behavior. But to be honest, I just really don't know anymore. I confronted her again about it and she apologized. I still reassured her by saying that I still see the best in her, and that's why I wanted to point out onto the things I want her to improve on. And then she said, "I think I'm getting too toxic for you. I don't want to hurt you anymore. I think my behavior isn't getting better as of now, and I admit that. I don't have an appetite for everything right now. I think that continuing this relationship would cost you. I don't want you to say that you see the best in me because you really don't. You see me as disrespectful. Isn't that enough to leave me? I also feel hurt when I hurt you, but it also hurts me to continue this relationship. I didn't say anything back as I don't know what to reply. I just feel so confused right now, and I'm hoping anyone could help me assess. TL Doctor, my depressed girlfriend is starting to get influenced by her friends, and they were encouraging their other friend to trigger and insult our classmate, who's exhibiting signs of autism, because he isn't giving that quality effort on their group. I'm struggling to know on where is the thin line between tolerating and excusing a depressed person's poor behavior. The ultimate flex would be to hire a cleaning service and then clean before they get there, just to assert dominance. I once did this and the cleaning lady told me she would never clean for me again. Power move. Am I the antagonist for moving to Canada to be with my partner? I, 30 male, have been in a long-distance relationship with my wonderful partner, 30 female, for almost 9 years now, having met while I was in university back in May of 2015. She is in Canada, I am in Northern Ireland. In that span of time, we've both visited each other for extended periods, usually a month or more, and would probably have been further along in closing the gap for good had the pandemic not slammed the brakes on things for a couple of years in the middle. The last time we got to be together in person was August 2019. Now in January 2017, my sister, now 43, gave birth to a little boy who I will refer to as Jay from here onwards. Jay has profound autism and has only become increasingly more difficult to care for as time goes on. Unfortunately, a lack of any other family to call upon for aid put me in the position of providing near constant additional support to an unhealthy degree. I'm talking from early in the morning to late in the evening. I am taking care of this kid because his mother cannot cope with him solo physically or mentally. His father, 40, is very much in the picture but is, to put it incredibly mildly, thicker than pig manure and more than happy to escape the madhouse and go to work. Lorry driver who also goes to a second job on the weekends delivering fast food from 5 p.m. until 11 p.m. Any visits between my partner and I since Jesus' birth always caused some huge blowout of a fight because it meant I wasn't going to be looking after the kid for whatever amount of time. When I revealed last January that I was applying for a visa, all hell broke loose. I got a redacted at suggestion of a comment, answer to the question, what did the 5 fingers say to the face? Across the face had remarks screamed at me to the effect of, I hope your plane crashes. I hope she drops dead before you get to her. My partner has a number of health issues, and generally was treated like the embodiment of pure evil. I'm scraping the surface on this part because to detail everything that transpired in the wake of me dropping that bombshell would be to write a novella. Side note, speaking of all hell breaking loose, my sister also has gone off the rails with a variety of Pentecostal Christian groups led by the likes of Mark Hemans and Daniel Adams that think the root cause of autism is some sort of demon that can be cast out of people. I'm not someone to begrudge anyone their faith, but that side of things has been challenging to say the least. TL Doctor, am I the antagonist for essentially abandoning my family to live my own life? I love my nephew to bits, and that's why I feel bad, because as much as I know he isn't actually my responsibility, the circumstances of life being what they are, it's a guilt I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life no matter what. But I also can't just surrender the rest of my life to this setup. If anything, I feel like anyone else in my position would have upped sticks and left long before now. Not the antagonist. You're not abandoning your family, you're taking care of yourself. You don't have to deal with disrespectful behavior like this. Look into state programs for your nephew. Maybe even therapy or professional assistance could be beneficial. Get out of that toxic cycle and don't look back. My spouse has gone off the religious deep end, and it's impacting our relationship. I will keep this as brief as I can and try to go through the events in chronological order. I guess the original context is that we've been married for 3 years and have been together for 8 years total. Before getting married, it was important to make sure we were compatible on some of the bigger questions. I don't follow any scripture-based religion or a personal God, and would probably align closest towards atheism. That has always been the case. My wife was raised Christian, and while she believed in God, she didn't feel obligated to go to church all the time or take all too literally. For example, she confirmed with me that she believed in evolution, etc., which was a relief. A key point here is that she did not want children at all and was vehement about that. With this as our basis and future plan, we decided to get married. I have always been comfortable to let people hold their own beliefs, as long as it does not impact me now or in the future. So we got married, etc., and about 9 months ago, I noticed my wife is starting to go to church regularly and has become more judgmental and focused on non-American talking points. She then starts making jokes about wanting a baby. Her whole personality changed. She was quite a relaxed, artsy girl, and now seems to be more snarky and highly conservative. She got so offended watching Darren Brown the TV had to be switched off. A few more months pass and my wife has clearly heavily fallen under the influence. Her friends are solely people from church. All she listens to are religious podcasts, music. She wanted me to go to church with her every week. Her phone screensaver is a cross. Mine is us getting married. Her only hobby is church. When I brought up the idea that our lives were getting boring, and it may be good to find a new hobby, etc., All she could come up with were church activities, and she became furious when I suggested that maybe she became furious when I said that non-religious. All of a sudden, she feels the desperate need for me to open my heart to God to save our marriage, as if I was the one who actively changed. She threatened divorce if I did not convert within 2 months, and she had material ready for me to watch. I told her I'd go through the material, but that there was no chance of me converting, that it was all stuff I encountered before being raised in a Christian environment too. I believe that she became born again during this period. So I went through the material, and by the end of the 2 months, she had settled down and seemed to accept that I won't change. She doesn't seem to truly believe that I opened my heart, as she thinks I would have 100% converted if I did. I try to explain to her that it's easier for her to convert to Islam than it is for me to become Christian. Now the baby talk is increasing, regardless of me stating that I do not want to have children. She is regularly hinting at babies. Bear in mind she no longer believes in evolution and she believes in demons, possession, etc., which is very alarming for me. She has stated that the child will have to be raised under her religion and will be going to church every week. She doesn't think I should reveal my beliefs, etc. This is weirdly at odds with her idea of the man being the head of the house, which seems to only relate to paying for stuff. To be clear, there is a 0% chance of me having children with her. But how long do I sit this out? Could it be a phase? Might I ever get the woman I fell in love with and married back? Seeing someone completely change their core values like this is definitely disheartening, and I have never seen a relationship recover from that. If your partner is giving you an ultimatum like converting to save the marriage or face divorce, it might be best to take action now before things get worse. It's a tough situation, but sometimes it's necessary to prioritize your own well-being and happiness. Roommate's significant other tried getting me evicted. I got them dumped. This is an old one, but still entertaining. 7 years ago, I moved into a 4-bedroom house with 3 of my friends. I was the only woman among 3 men. One of the roommates was the owner's son. We were all friends in college, and honestly, it was the best 2 years ever living situation-wise. We all had different work schedules, and because I worked the earliest, 6 a.m., I had the only downstairs bedroom. My friend, let's call him Jay, who worked night shift and got home at 4:30 a.m., had the room above me so that we didn't wake each other coming home. During the week, Jay and I would eat breakfast together before he went to bed and I went to work. We had a jar in the kitchen we all would throw spare cash in, like $5, $10 at a time each. That was for common groceries, like milk, eggs, basic bread, and occasional house meals and beer. Because we were in our early to mid-20s, the rule was always that if you used the last of the common use stuff, you'd take from the jar to cover the cost and grab it from the store ASAP. When we grabbed pizza or I'd make a meal for everyone, we used the same fund. This all is very important. About 5 months into the living situation, Jay met Karen and started dating her. He brought her to one of our game nights to introduce her to us to get a feel for how she'd mesh with us. And all was fine when she thought I was only the girlfriend of another roommate. Because we were playing in the dining room right by my room, Karen saw me go in that room to grab a sweater early in the night. Then she saw my roommate, the one she assumed I was dating, go upstairs to grab his phone charger. The entire vibe changed, and she started to ask me who I was dating. She was floored when my roommates confirmed I lived there. I had my own room, and I wasn't dating any of them. She saved face, said she was just surprised I'd want to live with 3 men, and we moved on. Cam, the owner's son, and I were the only ones that realized Karen saw this as a problem. After that, she started coming over right after I got off work, and only leaving when Jay went to work. If I came out of my room to the living room, she'd ask why I was out there. If I was going to the kitchen, she would remark that I was being disrespectful to her and Jay and interrupting their time together. If I was talking to Jay when she got there, she'd practically grind on him and shove her tongue down his throat. She even complained that I was ruining the mood for doing my laundry. Jay had made it clear that he knew she was being a problem and had started pushing for them to just chill in his room. Unfortunately, she used the opportunity to make some of the worst porn imitation noises any of us other roommates had ever heard. We laughed it off and just left those 2 alone. After a couple of weeks, she had gotten drunk before Jay went to work, and we insisted she stay in his room and sleep it off. I literally brought her food and Tylenol because girl was going to feel like hell in the morning. The next morning, Jay came home and started making breakfast for me and him when Karen came down and just started screaming. She woke the other 2 roommates up. She accused Jay of cheating, accused me of having relations with all the guys, then made the dumbest statement possible. She demanded I pay Jay back for the food he was wasting on me. Cam literally grabbed a $5 from the jar and slapped it in Jay's hand. Cam and I had a come to Jesus talk with Jay. We both told him if she couldn't deal with me living there, then she could no longer come over. Jay asked for a week to figure things out, trying to claim she was just caught by surprise when she saw him making me breakfast and not thinking clearly. We gave him a week. In that week, mysteriously the grocery jar was getting raided. We all noticed and talked about it. We noticed my clean dishes were appearing, still clean, in the sink. Little things were disappearing from common rooms and weirdly appearing in my room. Karen was being sweet. She was not exactly covert. Cam and I knew she was sowing chaos, but being curious where this was headed, we just watched. After a week, Cam gets a call from his mom asking if I had been going through something lately. Apparently, a concerned party had sent her picture after picture and story upon story about how I was trashing the house and stealing. Karen expected this to get me in trouble. Lucky for me, my landlord was actually worried I was not doing okay and wanted Cam to help me get through it. Cam told me and I started planning my petty revenge. First thing I did was eliminate the grocery jar. I split up what was in it evenly between the four of us and told them that because of the raided stash, I felt it needed to go away. Karen didn't like this, but when asked why, she claimed it was rude for me to make a unilateral decision. Cam backed me. Battle won. Then I started hanging with Cam in the living room every day. She complained, but Jay told her it's our house and we can do as we please. When she would go to the kitchen, one of always asked what she was doing in our fridge. She stopped going in our fridge after 2 days. The weekend was here, and we knew Jay had an extra overnight shift, and Karen was planning to stay in his room so they could hang out the next day. Cue my biggest petty move ever. Just a little information. Cam and I met in college where we both studied theater, specifically acting. That Friday we hung out in his room, right next to Karen's. We made a bit of a show when Jay left and acted like he could not know that Cam and I were hanging out alone in his room. This caught Karen's attention. We started shaking the bed, two nerdy people hip thrusting the end of the bed to give the illusion the spicy thing was going down is quite awkward but oh so entertaining. Within minutes, we got a text from Jay asking what we were doing. Cam replied, playing video games. After 10 minutes, we stopped the bed shaking and actually did play video games, on mute. When Jay demanded a FaceTime session, he saw exactly what he needed to see, me beating Cam in Mario Party. We cycled through this for a few hours. After a while, we decided to put the finishing touches on. We made a big deal about me needing to go to my room before Jay got home, and Karen took the bait. We could see the little bit of light being cut off in the slightly open door by her watching. Cam and I stage kissed and I headed to the living room. Jay came in 10 minutes later to find me watching a movie, normal for me, and asked what was up. I told him I'd been up playing video games all night with Cam. He tells me Karen claimed we were doing the nasty, and I told him we didn't. He goes to bed. The next day, Jay calls a house meeting without Karen. He tells us she's making claims of us having a relationship and hiding it from him. We say she's full of it. We tell him about the frame job she tried to pull, how she went to Cam's mom to get me in trouble. Jay asks our other roommate if he heard anything from the bedroom. Bro doesn't even flinch and says, I heard AmITheA calling Cam her bitch and the usual Mario Party shit talk. They weren't banging. Jay asked about the grocery jar. We all told him we suspected Karen. The next day he broke up with her for trying to turn him against us. He called her a liar and a thief. A few months later he dated another girl. She was awesome and they're married now. I was a bridesmaid. But the absolute best part, Karen being one of the waitstaff and seeing Cam with his wife and me with my fiancé, telling them the story of how we once humped a mattress fully clothed to get back at a thief. Yes, Jay knows the whole story and he didn't mind at all. To address the reason Jay wanted to know if we were actually getting funky, he is the kind of dude that hates useless secrets. If Cam and I were hooking up, he'd be fine with it. If we were hooking up and actively hiding it from him like we couldn't trust him, he'd have an issue. That was why we played hard into the Jay can't know part. Though Cam says Jay secretly wanted us, Cam and I, to get together but no antagonist here. After everything that went down, love that story, nobody likes a Karen. Jay definitely dodged a bullet getting out of that toxic relationship. Parent freaks out over my tattoos and autonomy over my body. I apologize if this is lengthy, but I'd like to give context and background information. I, 24-year-old female, have loved tattoos and piercings since I was a young teen. My mom, 54-year-old female, has always had a hatred for any body modifications, haircutting, dyeing, piercings, tattoos, particularly on me and my sister, which is off since my brother is a tattoo artist. She never explicitly explained why she doesn't like them or why she doesn't want me to have them, but when I would ask, she would basically shut the conversation down and said, because I said so. There have been several times in my life where I would try and rebel against her beliefs, which often lead to big fights. The biggest fight is when I was 19 and I really wanted to cut my hair short, to my shoulder. Up until this point, I always had long hair and my mom would always trim my hair. When I told her I wanted shorter hair, she got extremely mad and said, no, you'll look like a boy. After days of trying to convince her, we agreed that I was allowed to cut my hair to my shoulder blades. I accepted this because I knew this is the best outcome I could get. So she cut my hair, and I was not satisfied with how it looked. I wanted it shorter like how I initially mentioned. The next day I went back to college, where I lived with my roommates at the time. I decided, forget it, it's my hair, and I want to love myself when I look in the mirror. So I went and got my hair cut a couple more inches to the desired length I wanted. I loved it. I felt so free and liberated. When my mom found out, she ripped me a new one, called me disrespectful. She was historically crying, and she threatened to stop paying for my tuition and I would have to move back home. My dad reached out and told me I really upset her and I should apologize, which I did. I have massive guilt and pleasing issues with my mom. Anyhow, That is a little background information on how my mom typically responds to when I wanted to do things for myself. Fast forward to a couple of months ago. I decided I wanted to get another tattoo piece done. I have 2 other tattoos that my mom is aware of. With my other 2, my mom was very involved with the process. She decided size, placement, everything. I basically only got to decide what it looks like. I went along with this because I knew it was the only way I was going to get them. I'm not upset with how they turned out. I love them regardless. But mind you, I was 20 and 21 when I got these done and paid for both of them myself. Now with this third piece, I wanted to do this by myself as a 24-year-old woman who now lives on her own and makes her own money. When I told my mom, it turned into the biggest argument we had ever had. I have never heard my mom talk to me like this. She called me selfish, disrespectful, and accused me of only coming to visit her when I wanted to tell her bad news, getting a tattoo. She said she doesn't even recognize me anymore. This obviously upset me and I left the room in tears. When I calmed down and came back to talk to her, she continued to lay into me about how I am ruining my body and how I am going to look on my wedding day, which by the way, I am nowhere near getting married. I tried to explain to her that her words were upsetting me, and I just want her to support and love me no matter what. She couldn't give me this reassurance and continued to play the victim as if I am the one doing something terrible to her. I left her house very distraught. After a couple of days, we talked on the phone, but she never apologized or brought up that situation again. This is usually how it went. I ended up getting the tattoo, which I am absolutely in love with. I hide it when I see my mom, but when she does see it, she ignores it. She has since made me promise to not get any more, which I did not agree to, of course. I want more and soon, but I am crazy worried about her reaction again. I love my mom and care what she thinks of me, and I want a good relationship with her. Why can't she accept all of me? Is this narcissistic behavior? Anyone else in a similar position, feeling lost and wanting to live my own life? TL. My mom, suspected narcissist, feels she can control my bodily autonomy and hates when I get tattoos, piercings, haircut, etc. Any tips on what to do? I want more tattoos but don't want to ruin my relationship with her. Man, you're 24, so why even bother telling her what you're doing at all? It's all about control for your mom. You're an adult entitled to make your own decisions, so shut it down and live your life without letting her control you. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.